I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We may have a few more people join us, but just for the sake of time and to be respectful to your time, we'll go ahead and get started. Well, I just wanted to say welcome, everyone. My name is Ada Bobbitt, and I am the coordinator for United Way's Hub for Social Innovation. I serve on the Venture Forward team at United Way. So if you've received information relative to classes, workshops, trainings, the job board, the Hub for Social Innovation, all of those different things, you probably received those from me. So welcome. We are so excited that you decided to join us today. Before we get started, I am going to just share a couple of Venture Forward updates for you all, and then we will get into the bulk of our conversation. Let's see. So for those of you who don't know or haven't seen our April webinar schedule, that is live on our website, ventureforwardnow.org. This includes calls relative to COVID topics. We have our nonprofit check-ins, which you're a part of today. And then we also have nonprofit happy hours. So for those of you who just need a smile throughout the week and a call that is not relative to response and relief, I would highly encourage you to join our nonprofit happy hours. Those are Thursdays at 4. We've also suspended Venture Forward membership fees for them until June 30th. And so if you are renewed, or if your renewal is during these next couple of months, you'll basically get a few months for free. And if you know of an organization who is not part of Venture Forward, encourage them to join, because now is the time. What's better than free? And then we also have, just for those of you who are unaware, a COVID-19 resource page for nonprofits. This is located on our website as well. It's updated regularly with resources relative to funding, remote work, and a lot of other topics that nonprofits need to know about during this time. Let's see, what are our other updates? So for those of you who are not familiar with the community task force relative to COVID, there is a task force that the United Way and a lot of other organizations are championing with different focus groups around food, education, childcare, the disabled community, and a lot of other focus groups. And so if you, I wouldn't necessarily say if you're not a part of it, join, but if you know that your organization is not connected into this task force, we would highly encourage you to get connected, just so that you can stay updated on all the efforts that are going on around the community. Finally, we have just some additional resources that we wanted to share about. The COVID Small Business Resource Dashboard, which I'm actually going to show you all, because this is a really great resource for nonprofits. The Enterprise Center, as well as some other organizations in the area, have created a dashboard, and nonprofits are one of the audiences for this dashboard. This has information on funding. You can do different filters relative to the size of business, the type of funding you're looking for, and location, and this will give you information on available funding in the area. And so I can drop the link for this dashboard into the chat, but it's a really great resource, so I'd really encourage you to go check it out. And then finally, for those of you who are working on tornado relief, just based off of the events that happened this past weekend, there is currently work around a tornado relief fund, which will be a United Way and Community Foundation fund. And so this is specifically geared towards nonprofits providing the services for immediate and long-term recovery efforts. And if you qualify for that, or if that is your organization, please know that this fund is going to become available soon. They're currently working on the application and how to receive that. And so we will continue to provide updates relative to that fund, but I wanted to just put that on your radar as finance managers, knowing that a lot of you are serving not just COVID-19 crisis response, but also tornado relief as well. And so please keep that in mind. So that was a lot of updates from Venture Forward. But if you are not connected on our emails or our e-newsletter, please submit your email address in the chat and we'll be happy to add you. And so with that being said, let's talk. So this call, for those of you who are not familiar, is kind of based off of how Venture Forward used to do the CEO circles, which were bi-monthly events where CEOs would come together, share best practices, discuss pain points, celebrations, encourage one another, and so much more. And so we've decided to open these up, not just to CEO circles, but finance managers. We've also hosted volunteer manager circles, just as an opportunity to get you in the same place to discuss what's going on, celebrate the awesome work that you're doing, but also share the pain points and best practices, because what better way to learn than from each other? And so this call is going to be very informal. We have these specific questions that you see on your screen, which I'll kind of use to guide the conversation as needed. But I really want this to be an opportunity for those of you who have specific questions that you'd like to ask one another, or different things you're struggling with and just need advice on relative to your role in your agency. Just an opportunity for you to be able to share. And so what we're going to do to start the conversation off, because I know some people don't like to just dive right in, we're going to do a poll. So I'm going to launch this poll. You should see it on your screen. Let's see. So that poll should have come up. I'm going to give you a couple, or maybe a minute to respond. And I think you can select as many as you want. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and I'm going to share these results. And so this can allow us just to kind of start our conversation. So I'm really encouraged to see that a lot of you feel very hopeful and encouraged. I know in previous calls we've done this poll, and a lot of it was doubtful and frustrated and worried. There was a lot of hope as well in those previous calls, and so I'm encouraged to see that those numbers have kind of shifted a little bit. But does anyone want to speak to why they answered the way they did?
I'll start. This is Dave at the Chattanooga Autism Center. I've been hopeful the whole time, mainly because there's been so many other people in the community, nonprofit community, that are also hopeful. I know we're all banding together. And I'm encouraged because it looks like funding is coming through. So that's always great. I'm exhausted because it's been taking a lot of work to keep on the ball with that, get all of that stuff turned in, and to be monitoring it constantly. So that's where the being tired's come in, or being exhausted.
Thank you for sharing. I know that you're probably not the only one on the call that feels that same way. Does anyone else want to share? Okay, so I'm gonna actually stop sharing this poll, and we're gonna launch, I'm gonna ask a second question. And this will kind of get us started talking towards finances. Awesome. We had 100% participation. So I'm going to end that and share those results. So after seeing these results, does anyone want to start sharing how COVID has affected finances at your agency or the way you run finances?
This is Patty from Child Evangelism Fellowship. We have 6 full-time employees, no part-time. So we so far have been able to hang on to all of them. We started working remotely just about a week. Well, this is our 2nd week in remotely. We do a lot of work with the schools. We do after-school clubs, and so we've actually been working harder because we've been doing some virtual Good News clubs that we're being able to utilize with a lot of our 50 plus schools that we're in. And so we have just had to have all of our employees. Luckily, we ended the year with a pretty good finance balance sheet. And so we're able to carry that on right now. And we are getting some donations in. And then we have applied for the PPP grant loan forgiveness thing. We hope that that will come through, and that will help relieve a lot of the tension of for a couple of months. So we're just prayerfully hoping that that will work for us and for all the other smaller nonprofits.
Anyone else want to share?
This is Rachel with the Neighborhood House. So we have lost an incredible amount of revenue because about half of our revenue comes from our thrift stores. So having to have them closed has been a bit of a burden, but we are trying to keep our staff on. And like Patty said, we're waiting for word back on our loan to see if we can keep staff on longer. And I think the most challenging thing is it's just such an they're not, depending on the size of your staff and where everybody lies, it's a family's livelihood that you're talking about when you're making a decision about have to cut hours and things like that. So, and so we are just taking the approach of similar to what Patty said, each day is a new opportunity for prayer and waiting to hear back on that loan, which will be helpful just to allow us to breathe a little bit.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share?
This is Dave again. We've been a little lucky in that we've had to migrate our therapy to telehealth, and that has caused a huge dip in clinical hours that we'd be billing for. The upside is that there's a lag between when the money finally gets to you from the insurance companies. So luckily, a little of that is still coming in, and that's been able to kind of get us through. And I have tentatively heard that our loan's been approved, so there's a chance that we might have that money by this week. But that's how we've been handling that. And those staff don't have as many clinic hours, but we've kept them on at our same level because that income is there, and we took that chance on the loan. So we're doing a lot of work at home on curriculum building, getting prepared for when things come back, doing some changes for telehealth in areas that we didn't think we would before, just trying to really use their time and their talents while we can and keep everyone on staff.
I think it's been really interesting to see how agencies have shifted some of their direct services with like you were saying with telehealth, kind of moving it to still allow it during this time. Are there any other agencies that have kind of, and I know Patty, you mentioned the same, you're doing your Bible clubs virtually. Is there anyone else that's kind of shifted how you're providing your services in order to still kind of maintain that income, or at least some of that income?
This is Angie. I'm at Signal Centers, and we have been able to move a lot of our services actually to some type of remote platform, some kind of virtual platform, which is, for childcare and for adult day services, that's not the same, but they've been checking in with their teachers, kind of having a little virtual classroom a couple of times a week. And so that's keeping that connection between the children and their teacher. But most of our grants, we've been very fortunate. Our large grants come through the state of Tennessee, and we've been able to still meet those scope of services through virtual services. And so we're not seeing a huge decrease in our revenue streams, which is really good. But like most people on here, we've done the SBA loan application too.
Has anyone else shifted their services a bit to continue that income?
This is Doug Glidewell from the Chalmers Center, and we do a lot of in-person training of people to do savings groups led by local churches throughout the country and overseas. And we've had to change to make that virtual when we can. Fortunately, in the U.S., we just rolled out an online platform for the savings groups. But in West Africa, we could use the online platform, but there's no online in the villages that we work in. So we've come up with a plan to use WhatsApp on cell phones that we may have to purchase on behalf of people in West Africa, but to deliver that and keep them connected and informed about the virus, which they may or may not have heard of even yet. And we've been fortunate that some of our donors have stepped up and supported that, which has really been a blessing. And we also had a major donor remove restrictions that they'd previously had on a donation they made, a substantial donation they made. So we've been blessed in that way. And we're waiting for our loan as well. So.
This is Percy Garcia. Hello, everyone. I'm with United Way. Hey, Penny.
Hey.
So for us, it's incredible, and it's exciting to see how our donors are stepping up to the challenge and helping us continue to support us and support the new efforts and the challenges that our communities are facing. And to me, that has been like incredible to see. It's in my finance career, I have never seen something like that. And it's just phenomenal to see how donors and the people in need and everybody, it's working with an incredible it's just like it's almost hard to articulate well, like what happens there. It's like a beautiful system where everybody's connected, and we're very thankful to work for entities like United Way, and some of you guys probably feel the same way. Where everybody's just like our donors are stepping up, the communities are stepping up, and we're doing the best we can in such uncertain times, and it's just beautiful to see.
Does anyone else have any kind of thoughts around how COVID has affected their agencies, how they're feeling around just the response? Like Percy was saying, it's been a really incredible response to see the way people have been flexible and shifted, especially our donors. Does anyone want to speak to how grants have been given, or like lessened restrictions, different things like that?
Well, I've worked on several in the last few weeks, so I have not gotten any word back to see if those are going to be granted or not. But we are very hopeful that they will be. One is especially for our summer ministry. So we're in prayerful hope that things are going to get back to normal soon, so we can start. We're going ahead and planning as if summer is going to happen like normal. And it has been challenging for us recruiting teenagers for our summer missionaries. So that is something that if y'all got any ideas on that, please, I'd love to hear those.
Hey, Ada, I just had that's a really good question from Patty, and I think like we need to think about it and come up with like really out of the box solutions and as to how to fill the gap there. Of if I understand correctly, you're trying to find volunteers, like teenage volunteers for your ministries, and yeah, these are like it's funny, Patty. I do similar stuff where I throw ideas like whether it's a Toastmasters or any other group, and like I try to get feedback because some of the answer is somewhere, someone has it, right? But yeah, like I'll think about it. And yeah, I had a question, like since this is like a finance manager's thing, my question was mostly around like the operations, right? Like the finance functions and all the processes that go in there. How's that affecting you guys on your everyday job? Like whether it's like, you know, requests for spending or any of the processes that, how are you guys dealing with that on a virtual platform? And since this is a finance manager, is it a good assumption to say that most of us are accountants? Or maybe
Executive director.
Executive director, no accountants, no.
We do it all. We wear lots of hats.
Gotcha.
We don't have a finance.
Angie's an accountant, Percy. I think you've got one.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So, but it's still right. Like you have to deal with all the requests and all that stuff. How are you dealing with it on a virtual platform? What are you guys able to still operate at the same rate, at the same pace as you were before the events?
We have I'm sorry, Dave. We have let me count. We have I have a 6 staff member accounting team. And so we have all shifted to working from home as much as possible, but you can't cut checks and get checks
or deposit checks, right? Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we've got some that are rotating coming in to take care of those things, but it's harder to get stuff done because you're so used to being there and close. And want to say, oh, I have this question, and someone says, oh, I have that answer. So
like those quick, like, hey, you go get coffee, and it's like, hey, do you see this? And you get an answer like almost instantaneously, right?
Right.
And yeah, that's definitely a struggle. How are you guys managing the stress in all of it? How are you guys able to really separate? And I was explaining this to someone. It's like a smoothie, right? Everything is so blended in: life, kids, job, and it seems like it's running from all day long.
Right. There's no work hours and home hours. There's no weekend and weekday.
Yeah, it's just blended, right?
There are no silos. There's no compartmentalization. So it's hard. I'm fortunate that I don't have small children at home with me, but my finance director and my senior accountant both have very small children at home. So they may be grabbing work hours that are not in line with when I'm working. So that's where we're getting that big gap in.
Right. Like when you need something, it's like not when that person is working because of all the things that are going on.
That's right.
Does anybody has like any tips on how to manage that? Has anybody been successful at maybe successful at dealing or coping with these circumstances?
One thing that we're doing each day, we have 6 staff. None of ours have small children. Some have teenage children. And so that's been pretty helpful. But we have a call every morning at 9 a.m. and we do prayer, devotion, talk about what we've got on our plate. And then at 1 o'clock, we also have a check-in call. And at the check-in call, we actually are doing something fun. We are getting to know each other ways that we don't normally. We're asking questions, finding out about people. We actually did a virtual ice cream party one day to try to keep morale up and
Right.
to keep us on task with each other and knowing who's doing what and, who do we need to help with whatever. And so we shifted a few things. Like today, we had a couple of things that came up and I needed somebody to do something immediately. So we shifted what they were planning on doing for the day. And that has really worked well, having the morning call, the afternoon call, trying to make it fun, because it can get very isolated and lonely working remotely. I'm a people person, so for me, that has been huge to be able to do those each day.
That's fantastic, like phenomenal tips. And we have something similar United Way that does help. Like it's like we do like the team huddles and all the virtual stuff, and it does help indeed, Patty. Thank you so much for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
How about go ahead, Ada.
I was just going to say, do you find that those daily meetings allow you to kind of hit on those key questions that keep work flowing? So if you've run to a stopping point, you have those times twice a day where you can come ask a question and know that whoever has the answer is going to be there. Has that kind of process?
Yes, that has been tremendously helpful because we have that open communication and it's just, we're all doing it through Zoom, and it has just been fantastic to be able to keep the morale up, being on task with one another, like we're together, even though we're not.
Or you could quickly rally up all the things that are going on and get a sense of the flow of everything, like where is everybody at, and synchronize. Like you use that opportunity as to lift morale and at the same time get things done.
Yes. We've accomplished a lot of things that we were not able to accomplish because we were always too busy. So this has helped us to be able to focus on some things to get us ahead for when this pandemic is over. We're going to be in a lot better shape.
Absolutely. I think what are your thoughts? Ada, do you have some specific things that you would like to share? Because I feel like I'm asking a lot of questions, and it may be due to isolation, and so I want to make sure like I'm not running onto your schedule or.
Yeah, no, this call is designed for you guys to share best practices, get feedback from one another. I'm the non-finance related person in the room, I feel like, but as needed, I'll step in to ask questions. But this is for you guys, so please take this conversation where you feel like you want it to go, or if you do have questions, please ask those. This is the time to do it. Yeah, so Percy, your questions are awesome.
Thanks.
So this is Doug Glidewell. I would chime in and say I'm the only finance person at the Chalmers Center, so I don't have any team meetings. But I did bring the check printer home, which weighs about 60 pounds. It's an old printer, and I mail the checks out, but. Collecting the deposits is a big deal.
Yeah, the deposits. Have you seen a slowdown on checks?
What's that?
Do you get checks from like a specific, like from a donor pool, just like United Way does, or is it like mostly grants? Have you seen a decline on the frequency of checks and all that good stuff?
Like last week we had maybe $1,500, and this week we've got over 80,000. And there's no there's no rhyme or reason as to how it comes in. We've been trying to get some people to do like wire us the money or ACH us the money. Like one of the biggest National Christian Foundation is who we get a lot of money through. It's a donor advised fund. They're supposed to be wiring money now, which will be helpful. But anyway, it's just it's just getting the job done for that. So we have people who do that. And the thing the part about the meeting people at the coffee thing is we use Slack, the Slack app, to do that, which is helpful. You can see if somebody's at least online, and you can, ping them or just chat with them.
Right.
And there's all that chit chat. There's we have different channels set up for prayer requests or funny like jokes or, how people are doing good, that kind of thing. We've shared the John Krasinski videos on there.
Just to keep it live and alive and fun and to try to get right. That's awesome. That's awesome. Is anybody on the Office 365?
Yes.
Are you guys using Teams and all that good stuff?
We're
No
using
Teams?
Yeah, we're using Teams for several things. And that's one of the ways that we're trying to, if we run into a stopping point, we'll just pop it up there in the chat, and whenever the next person can see it, they'll see we're waiting on them.
Yeah. I actually got I really enjoy, and I'm very into technology. Like most of my my experience in private accounting has been with data driven stuff. And actually I found there is a way to get approval processes, automate that through SharePoint and Microsoft Forms, and automate that process. For instance, if somebody wants accounting to process a pledge for a donor, and we created this flow that is automated where they fill out a form so they can tell us exactly the codes. Like imagine expense report, right? For accounts, somebody, you might, if you work with accounts, you might know, it's man, how many times do I tell that person that that's not the right accounting code? So you basically narrow down the options that they have and all that stuff. And it has worked great. I'm highly impressed with the capabilities and the amount of resources that Microsoft has poured into competing in the market for this kind of stuff. I thought and it's funny, right? You wait for these times to start exploring all those options, right? Now there is no paper form that I have to drop in somebody's physical inbox, so I had to come up with solutions. Do you guys have any successes on anything like that, or something that you're man, I wish I would have known about this a long time ago. It would have made my job so much better, or I don't know.
I've got something that's not fancy. If any of you have EPB phones at work, the ones that you rent from them.
I'm so sorry, Doug. What was that one?
If any of you have EPB phone systems in your workplace, the phones, here, see if I can show you one. Oh, it won't reach. But the phones that they give you, you can take those home as long as you get a power outlet, can plug them into power. You can plug them into your router, and
it works as if you were there, right?
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
So do all of the other buttons. So if you have another phone that's an extension, you can just hit that extension. And if he or she has it at their home, or if they're at the office, it's the same thing. Your phone calls come from the office rather than some random number or private number, right? So you can call people without worrying about having to give out your private cell phone. So that's worked for our clinicians, our clinic admin, our executive admin. And if I need to be home, I can take mine home too.
Dave, that is a fantastic tip. I did something not as sophisticated as yours, but there is an option on the EPV where you can make another phone ring, and then you pick up on that phone, and then that receiving person sees it as you're calling from the office. But yours is a much, much better solution where I just bring the whole phone, plug it in, and
you have to be close to your router. That's the thing. You have to have a long enough cable that you can plug your phone back in the back of your router, your Wi-Fi router. And that wasn't me who found it out. Our executive admin talked to EPB, and they said
just
they'll
take
even
it,
give
man.
you for free the power connection that you need, but they had run out of them, and they're only $7-8 on Amazon.
That is a cool tip, because you're right. I use as a cell phone, I use a Google number, and if I'm calling a donor, it's is this a scam?
Mm-hmm.
No, you call me. I'm calling you back. Like, how would I know so much about you already? But yeah. So whenever they see like a random Google number, they're like, hey, is this a scam? And then you have to, it's like you just, yeah. So that alleviates that issue. That's a phenomenal solution, Dave.
If anybody has questions on how to do that, they can email me or call me and I'll walk them through that.
That is really cool. That is really cool, man.
Along the lines of innovation, the Chalmers Center is, so we one thing we do is we've talked about asset development, like in poverty alleviation, like community asset development. And we've with the virus and the stay-at-home orders, we've flipped that and we're making it how to innovate in a crisis. And we're having a webinar next Thursday, and I can send this to Ada, like a link to this to Ada, and you guys, if you were interested, you can sign up. There'll be a follow-on like what's really needed to innovate, and maybe that'll help answer the question about how do you find teenagers in this environment. Anyway, that's the kind of thing it's meant to do.
That is really cool.
So I'll forward that to Ada and she can forward it out.
I'd be happy to share it out. I think that's such a good just topic right now, because prior to COVID, I think a lot of mindsets, and I even catch myself doing this sometimes, is being like, well, no, that can't happen, or we don't need to do that, or that's just not even a possibility. And then in a matter of a week, everyone's worlds were flipped upside down, and what we thought didn't need to be a possibility became a possibility. And just to see how quickly people are opening their minds to this idea of change and innovation, I think it's so important. And so, yeah, I'll be happy to send that out. I'll hopefully can attend as well. So yeah, thank you for sharing.
And I know that Ada, Patty, Ada, it's like a phenomenal solutions like the thinking. What is that? What is the methodology that you use, Ada, for? What was that? One more time.
Design thinking.
For design thinking, and like, oh man, like a phenomenal resource. Like if you run into challenges that, like sometimes you just need like somebody outside of your field to help you really think about solutions to random stuff. And Ada is like a phenomenal person for that kind of work, where you can sit and like illustrate what is a challenge, and she can help you, because sometimes, sometimes like I can see like two accounts together. They won't get like that creative, but somebody's like, oh yeah, you got it, right? So sometimes like, and I think Ada will be like a phenomenal resource for you guys and for us. Like she's a phenomenal resource for us when we hit those kind of spots, and where you just need somebody a little bit coming with a fresh view of whatever it is that one is trying to accomplish. And she's phenomenal at doing that kind of work. And she works with Patrick. I don't know how familiar you are with him, but the same thing. It's like, and design thinking is a phenomenal thing. I'm still stuck on Six Sigma methodology, a little bit older school than design thinking, but the idea is there, and there's like phenomenal, it's a phenomenal methodology to solve problems, and Ada is phenomenal at it. So really great source for anybody, and we're very glad to have Ada in our team for sure.
That's that's the basis of that. Yeah. That's the basis behind that webinar next week will be design thinking. And so our team took, we go through, like we had a team member who lived in Lima, Peru.
I'm from there.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, it wasn't me though. I wasn't your team member.
So she's American, but she was living in Lima, and she would work remotely in a WeShare space, and or WeWork space, and she would have. I teased her that 3M went out of business in Peru when she left because nobody was buying Post-its anymore.
That's funny. That's like
have a wall of
full of 3M notes.
Right.
But it works. Like it's funny, like how simplistic. Like you know, like agile, like and like all these different things do work. If you take the time, it helps you. It definitely helps. Like it helps just like to visualize what is it that you're trying to accomplish. Sometimes we try to get really complex, and the solution is much easier. It's like, oh man, it was staring at me the whole time. And if you just 3M notes, then it was actually staring at you the whole time. Like one of those sticky notes could have been your answer.
Right.
That's awesome, Doug. Thank you for sharing. So I guess like there are no sticky notes in Peru left. So
Does anyone have any just like more kind of I guess examples of how your organizations have been using innovation or have innovated your processes? I know we've talked about how you've kind of gone to virtual work or different things like that, but is there anything that you would consider an innovation as far as what you're currently doing, kind of forced to almost innovate just because of the times?
Are you asking me that?
I was just throwing that out there to the group, but Doug, if you have, I know you talked a little bit about it, but if you have anything else.
No, those are the biggest things. Is we flipped our curriculum development on its head and started a different direction with this because we had nobody to go meet in person. So
Definitely call that innovation. Yeah, that's awesome.
how about reporting needs? How do you feel? Do you feel like the reporting that you're currently getting on whatever it is that you want it to be reported? Because I noticed that there are some executive directors, and how do you feel about reporting? Are you getting what you need out of the reporting? Easy to understand? Do you wish it would be more elaborate? Do you wish it was more simplistic? Because I feel like if you post this question on a board, like on a committee or an executive board of some sort, everybody has different things. It's too complex. It's too simple. I wish it had that. I wish it didn't have this column. I wish it had this, and like all those things. So what do you guys feel about reporting? Do you feel like the reporting that you receive to track the business trends or whatever it is that you're trying to track, how do you feel? Do you feel it's over? It's too much? It's too little? You wish there was something better? You wish, like, is there something there? How do you feel about reporting of to run your business? How do you feel reporting is what is the status quo of reporting for you? Is it too complex, too simple? It's missing something? You wish there was something else? You wish, or you're extremely happy with what you have?
We're currently in the process of trying to develop a dashboard for our entire agency. So while we're stuck reporting outputs, we are trying to move in the direction so that we can report more outcomes. And so that's a total mind shift change from what directors are used to reporting. So they still keep giving us outputs, and outputs are what we kind of have to do day in and day out to get to an outcome. And so I didn't know if anyone had any tips on how to change that thinking, because there are executive directors and program directors on here, to get someone who is so used to saying
doing what something outputs, like us.
We did 87 trainings this week as to what would be an outcome because of that. Asking that why question 3 times, why?
Yeah. 5 times is a trick, right? That's on Six Sigma methodology. If you ask 5 times, you will get to the root cause. I don't know. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. But like I know that tool that is really good. The tool is like Power BI. That's an excellent job at that kind of stuff, and it's fairly intuitive. If that's your kind of thing, like if you enjoy that kind of stuff, like creating visualizations and all that good stuff, like it's a really cool tool. Also, Tableau is really good, but most importantly, it's really, really understanding the needs of the people and the needs of the users, right? Because I can develop things that, man, that makes it speaks lively to whatever I'm trying to showcase the world, but that doesn't necessarily translate the same way to the people, right? Like to me, it's like, dude, I can just make like a Power Query and get like something like pretty simple on a 2-dimensional table, and it's good, right? I get it. I know what's going on. I can tell you exactly. I can put my finger on anything that I need to know and eloquently translate that. But my users are like, dude, like I have no clue. What are you trying to tell me here? And so I think like
their language.
Yeah. Like to me, it's like, yeah, how can you not see it? It's right there.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, it's beautiful, man. I want to cry every time I look at it. Cry of joy. But that's the thing, right? So I think like and I don't know how much you guys get into this, but I really think, and something that has worked with me is get with my users, right? And you have to steer them a little bit to my users, whether it's executives or down the chain, whoever it is, and because it's a dance, right? Like you have to steer them a little bit, but also give in and like make sure that the things that they seem as extremely important, even though you may not, you're like, what are they doing with this kind of information? But make sure like it's like a dance. And I think if you get your users involved, it works really well. But I haven't been fully successful at it, but it's something that I work day in and day out. I'm like, that's my jam, that kind of stuff. And, financial planning and reporting and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have any feedback or things that you like or things that have worked for you in the past, or anything that you can throw, any successes, any failures. You're like, man, I'll never do that again. Anybody?
Can't think of any.
I think the biggest failure you can have on that kind of on reporting, if it's not timely. Like I used to work at a public company, and we would have to do these quarterly reports of like variance analysis.
Yeah.
Like 6 months behind. So
by the time you report it, it's like, what's happening right now?
Yeah, and part of it was the gyrations we'd have to go through to get that accomplished. But if it's not timely, then don't do it.
Yeah, like it's just okay, that was a great history lesson, but actually what's happening today, right? And automation is changing the field a lot. Like and again, like kudos to Microsoft. There are some really neat tools there that help you, whether it's Power BI or Power Query or Microsoft Excel, that help you automate a lot of the stuff. So a report that used to take like 2-3 days, like anytime that you have to actually physically manipulate the data to make it do whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, whenever you automate that, it leaves a lot of the error out if you put the logic correctly, and then it makes them timely. Yeah. How about the biggest challenge as of working remotely? What is your biggest challenge there? Or anybody? Yeah. What is the thing that you're like, man, if I was in the office, this would be accomplished so easily? Other than check.
I've gone from having Chattanooga EPB gigabyte internet to working off of a cell MiFi. So
yeah,
I just go to the office.
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? Like you have like this pristine. Yeah, like it's funny, right? All the things that we give for granted. It's just like internet, right? Like who would think like at home it's a spotty, and sometimes like, man, you were about to close this thing and it just shuts down, or I don't know, like or like our do you have any problems with logging into virtual office, Connie, at Babbitt?
So Percy keeps calling me Panny because I just recently got married, and so he used to call me by my maiden name. So that's where the Panny.
The Pani Babbitt confusion comes.
Yeah. So, well, personally, I don't work in our virtual office platform. Often I use Google Suite and Microsoft Suite on 365. I just find that's a lot faster. Yeah. But hey, really quickly, I noticed that we have about 7 minutes left. And one thing that I wanted just to kind of ask you guys was around just some topics relative to future conversations that you would like some more information on. Venture Forward hosts webinars weekly, a few webinars weekly, and a lot of those are around specific COVID-related topics or capacity building opportunities. And so, like, as finance managers or individuals in your organizations who oversee finances, are there specific topics that we could potentially look at hosting for future webinars? We've hosted over the past couple weeks ones around the SBA loans. And so if you haven't seen those and you would like to, I'm happy to forward those recordings. But we're always wanting to just be able to provide topics that are relative and that you want to hear. So I know things we've talked about on this call are remote working, great tools for remote working, but are there specific things that as finance managers you would be interested in, like, in participating in a webinar on?
I think down the road, fundraising changes in how everybody is doing that, having a discussion and thoughts and brainstorming and sharing ideas. I'd find that valuable.
I actually think we have one of those in the works right now. So we've got you, Dave.
You're always ahead of the curve.
Anyone else?
I think there's always changes to reporting requirements for nonprofits in particular. So just staying abreast of any best practices or emerging topics for nonprofits would be great.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hey, Ada, do we have anybody to talk about PPP and all that good stuff? Do we have any speakers around those topics? Like, I would imagine either CPAs or lawyers.
Yeah.
Do we have anything on the works? I thought I saw something somewhere.
We had one yesterday with Jim Catanzaro from Chambliss Bonner.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, and so he's been kind of our go-to guide on all things relative to those policies and stuff. So.
And they're really entertaining. Like, they're really good speakers, right? I think I went to a half-a-day CPE, CPA, and those guys were speaking, and they're like extremely interesting. Too bad I missed it.
Yeah, no, he's great. And so I'm happy to share that with you guys if you were not able to participate.
Are you posting these recordings anywhere that we could just go get off of the website or something?
Yes, so those are currently on our Venture Forward YouTube channel, but I'm actually about to do some edits this afternoon, or I guess after this call, to that YouTube channel. So the best way for me to share that with you is going to be to send you the link to the YouTube channel, but after today, all of it will be on the United Way's YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we had two separate streams, and we're combining those to make sure that we're under the United Way's.
Great.
Are you doing any surveys, Ada, on those kind of things, like asking questions of what was the most useful thing? Because that could be like really nice bits of information, like quick, you know, like if I had 5 minutes and I saw like the questions that people seem to be gravitating towards, it would give me like, if I couldn't make like the whole 1 hour, 2 hour special, like something that would give me like the essence of what was discussed, or what people that attended that was the essence of what was discussed. That could have been like a phenomenal, like, you know, if there's a way, I'm not sure, of highlighting, hey, these were these were the 3 things that people found most valuable from this thing. And here are the, like, you know, like you can edit it. I don't know whichever software that you use and put it like, you know, that would be like extremely helpful because there is a lot of information. There are a lot of webinars. There's so many things going on, but time is also a restricting factor, right? Like I cannot sit down and attend like 8 webinars, but there is like extremely valuable information in them. So if I had a way to digest really quickly something that I'm interested enough to know, you know, to grasp a thing, but not so interested to actually spend an hour in it, it would be like a phenomenal way, like an efficient way. And I don't know how you guys feel about this kind of stuff, but there's a lot of webinars, a lot of classes. There's so much going on and there's only so little hours in a day. So yeah, Pani, that would be a thing to think about, like what people found the most useful, like the top 3 things and just like a few answers of what the speakers that they did. That could be.
We're kind of doing that, I guess you could say, with certain webinars. Some of our webinars, if you'll see on the descriptions on Venture Forward, they'll have certain outcomes. And so we'll usually highlight those outcomes with some additional information that was discussed during the webinar or the call. And then we do send out a follow-up survey, but I think that's a really good point, and just with webinars and now moving to our virtual platform, looking at maybe those top 3 or top insights that individuals gain. And that's an easy addition to our post-webinar.
And extremely valuable to everybody. You know what I mean? Like to everybody that, like, yeah. So if you're interested enough, you can grab like that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
definitely. That's a good point, Percy.
Because we have to do so many CPE as CPAs, and some of them are like, not very interesting. I wish it could be condensed, but we still need the time and all that stuff. Like that's a different story. But yeah, for others, that would be phenomenal. It's been a pleasure to meet you all, and I hope we can collaborate and do phenomenal things for the community and improve that profession as well. Absolutely. It's been an honor. I have to run, but a pleasure to meet you guys. Thank you so much, Ada, for putting this together. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the tips, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm going to stay on the call for a few more minutes in case anyone has questions, or if anyone had a question that they didn't have time to ask and wants to ask, please feel free. But we do appreciate this, and we hope that you continue to engage in our webinars going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ada.
Thanks, Dave.